My first hero was born on the Isle of Wight, and he had so many ideas he's been called England's own Leonardo da Vinci.
A man whose interests ranged from earthquakes to architecture, from plant cells to watches. If we can believe everything he claimed, he was more brilliant than Robert Boyle and Isaac Newton put together. His name was Robert Hooke.
Robert Hooke was born in freshwater Isle of Wight, but spent a lot of his life at the Royal Society as the first curator of experiments.
Just like Robert Boyle and Isaac Newton, Hooke had a law named after him, and it was about the stretching of springs. As he put it, in Latin, ut tensio sic vis, i.e. the harder you pull it, the more it stretches. Have a look at this. If I hang this spring here, you can see it doesn't stretch at all. If I hang a bag of oranges on an identical spring, it stretches about that much. Another bag of oranges, hang 2 bags of oranges, you'll see that this spring will stretch twice as far as the first one did.
In other words, 2 kilos of oranges stretch a spring twice as far as 1 kilo, and 3 kilos stretch it 3 times as far. Hooke's law is important because it was one of the first ever mathematical laws of nature.
You may not realise it, but you're using Hooke's law every time you weigh anything, in the kitchen or yourself in the bathroom. Here's my bathroom scales. I weigh about 14 stone. And look inside. This little spring at the front is the one that's doing it. The harder you press on it, the more it stretches, and the more that dial spins round. So this is Hooke's law in action. And one of the most important things he did was to use a microscope, just like this one, to look at a piece of cork.
What he saw through his microscope looked like a cross-section of loads of box-shaped rooms, so he called them cells, and we now know that all living material is made of cells. But the really clever thing he did was to work out the true shape of the cells that he could see.
Hooke noticed a peculiar thing when he was looking at his cork, and I shall demonstrate it with the aid of this loaf of bread. Now, when he sliced it across like this, what he found was that the cells all looked like round circles, you see, as like coins, and he wondered whether they were just flat or whether they were 3-dimensional.
The problem is that to see an opaque substance like cork under the microscope, it has to be sliced thin enough to be transparent. Hooke realised you then lose the 3-dimensional shape. His brilliant solution was to take another slice at 90 degrees, showing here that the apparently round cells aren't coin-shaped or ball-shaped, but long and thin, like sausages. He described all his microscopic work in this wonderful book, Micrographia, or some physiological descriptions of minute bodies made by magnifying glasses by R. Hooke, Fellow of the Royal Society. And he starts with a really crawling dedication to the King, who was presumably rather short-sighted. Sir, I do here most humbly lay this small present at your Majesty's royal feet. And look at this, the flea. Nobody had ever seen a flea in such detail. Beautiful drawing of it. And all the ladies must have been horrified to see this disgusting creature magnified so much. He seems to have been a popular chap. He was certainly a good friend of Samuel Pepys and of Christopher Wren. Indeed, he helped Wren to rebuild London after the Great Fire of 1666. But unfortunately, he managed to get himself a bad reputation, and he certainly fell out badly, particularly with Isaac Newton. However, whatever his critics said, no one can take away the fact that he was the first person in the world to see and describe cells, the universal building blocks of life.